Welcome to episode 3 of Adult Music, your podcast for music for the mature mind. Your hosts,
for the adult
Russ
mind.
And Mike here. What do we have up for the listeners tonight, Mike?
Well, today is the long-awaited, at least long-awaited among people we know, Jazz Grammy rundown. We're going to go through the entire Jazz Grammy list, and we're going to throw in contemporary instrumental music too, and talk about what we think about these albums that are nominated for the Grammy in the Jazz and Contemporary Instrumental Music categories.
Well, that sounds like a lot to do.
It was.
I should say at the start here that I'm really not an awards type of person in any categories of life, and especially in the arts. I believe that the performance and the creation should be the reward in itself. The only good thing I can see coming out of it is giving some artists recognition they might not receive, but inevitably I always feel that someone undeserving won something or someone else was unrecognized. And I usually, for many years now, I haven't even paid attention to who's won any of these. So I've prepared myself an adult beverage to get through all of this. And
I want an adult beverage too. I don't have one.
Oh, we have to prepare one before episode 4.
Yeah,
then.
It's too late now. I'll have to have one afterwards to, because I think I'll need one after we're done with all these.
You'll probably need several after we're finished with this.
Yeah, speaking of awards, I just want to say my approach to awards, I generally don't like the Grammys, and especially when we get to the classical Grammys. Oh, I don't know. We'll talk about that when we get to them next time. But in general, I tend to like classical music awards from certain magazines like the Gramophone magazine in Britain and Diapason magazine in France. They do these year-end... Well, the Gramophone has the Gramophone Awards, and Diapason has a year-end list of the Diapason d'Or d'année, which means their picks of the best albums of the year. And I often find things that I miss. The classical music releases for the entire year are there's so many.
It's hard to keep
releases.
Up with them all.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with them all. And I often find a lot of good stuff that I missed when I look at those lists. So we will, by the way, on the Adult Music Podcast, be looking at all the albums up for the Gramophone Awards when that happens around September. So stay tuned for that. I do look
at the Gramophone year-end list every year and find there's something I missed. And I like their perspective more than what I'm going to get in a lot of other places, too. Right. The Presto list, we both like Presto music too, so that's a good list to look at.
Presto put out a list of, that's right, Presto Music. Hey, Presto Music, you can sponsor us too. We love you. I order stuff from you all the time. The Presto list, they did their first ever list, Presto Music in the UK. It was they listed 100 albums, and it was pretty overwhelming. There was some pretty intriguing stuff on that too. A lot of vocal music that I wouldn't have otherwise listened to, and that I really liked. So it's worth looking at too. All right, are we ready to start?
Let's get going.
Okay, by the way, to our listeners, if you want to keep score at home, you want to go to www.grammy.com and click on the, when it says 2021 Grammys Awards Show Complete Nominees List, you want to click on, Jazz.
I'll put the link in the description so they can get a quick access there.
Yeah, it's not just Grammy.com, there's a whole 2021 Grammys Complete Nominees List thing. Okay, so you can take a look at that. All right, so here I am. Oh, by the way, I like to think of this as the adult Grammys because jazz and classical aren't televised. They're not part of the Grammys broadcast. You can watch it on the internet. It's pretty fast. They go through it pretty fast. But part of my issue with the Grammys, I may as well get this out of the way now, is that I've been looking at these, especially the jazz lists, for several years now, and it seems to me that the committee has their pet artists that seem to be nominated every time they put out an album. This drives me crazy. I don't know that these are all the best albums of the year. In fact, I think we have our list of what we thought the best albums of last year were. So we could talk about that a little bit too. What's missing from these?
I have just a few that I would have liked to seen recognized. I don't know if they're best or not, but they're noteworthy for some reason. So.
Yeah, for me, this was a mixed bag. There was some really good stuff in here, but there was some stuff that I really didn't like at all. So we'll talk about that when it comes down to. Okay, first category. This is number 31 of the entire Grammys category. Best Improvised Jazz Solo. Now, I have to say, I didn't know how to judge this. I kind of listened for how the solo was put together, and I have a pretty good idea of who I liked here. But it seems like an odd thing to be judging.
It's a hard category.
All the numerous solos that happened.
Of all the solos on all the albums all year, to give an award for the best solo.
They limited it. They whittled it down to 5. Who knows how?
I don't know.
But here we go. This is what we have. The nominees are Christian Scott Atunda Adjoa on the track Guinevere from the album Axiom. Let's just go down the list. Pachamama by Regina Carter, violinist. Okay, is the soloist on this, and this is a track from the album Ona by Thana Alexa. The track Celia, Gerald Clayton, the pianist, is the soloist here on his album Live at the Village Vanguard. All Blues, the old Miles Davis track, Chikkoria from his album Trilogy 2. And last one is Mohonk, played by the soloist is Joshua Redman, the saxophonist, from the album Round Again. We're going to talk about all these albums in more detail because they're all nominated in other categories. Anyway, what do you think? First of all, Christian Scott Atunda Adjoa, what did you think of this?
Not much.
This track only.
It's a screeching chromatic solo. It'll get your attention, but as far as a solo that stood out to me in its content, doesn't stand out among this group. No.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much about this yet because we're going to talk about this album later. But I thought I kind of liked the sound he got at the very low end. It was kind of surprising that he got down so low. I thought the recording of this, but we're going to talk about this later, was really distorted. I'm kind of wondering. It's a live performance.
I had to stop listening to it because of the percussion. My eardrums.
You don't like I like the percussion.
Well, it was overbearing. It was just too much for me. So, and I don't. Yeah, I generally don't like this sort of new fusion sound with electronic things. I can't handle too much of that these days. So.
Okay, well, let's get into that when we get to the album. Anyway, so the solo. Next one, Pachamama, Regina Carter, soloist. I thought this was pretty nice. I like this one.
Yeah, we've already talked about this album when we'll have our differing opinions on it. Although I didn't care for the album much, I really did like this solo. It was sort of in the context of the song, I was surprised to have a solo. She was really reaching with different scales and built up a nice climax with it. And I thought it was a unique solo, especially on this album. So I like this one a lot.
Yeah, nicely paced, a good sound, kind of a I don't know what you'd say, a bit of a folky kind of violin sound.
To have a violin improvised solo is always nice if it goes somewhere, and this one really did.
Yeah, I'm going to have something to say, by the way, about the Christian Scott Atunda Adjoa album. He has a flautist, a jazz flautist named Elena Pinderhughes, who I like a lot. Anyway, but we'll get to that. All right, the next one is Gerald Clayton on the track Celia. For this one, there was some. I liked. He built his melodic and figurative ideas really well. I thought the whole solo was very organic and sort of complete. You know, he finished ideas that he started, didn't just kind of go off in any other directions. I thought this was really kind of nice and linear, and I think he took some chances in it too. I thought it was kind of a bold solo. It was good.
Yeah, I like this. It's a very modern solo, but he builds it well. And in the middle of it, there's some nice two-hand runs where he's sort of running together, building up some tension, and then it has a nice shape to it. And yeah, I like the solo. I wouldn't say it was anything outstanding, but when I went back and looked at this track and said, okay, now I'm going to listen to the solo, I said, okay, yeah, that was a good solo. Yeah, good one.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of well put together solos, next one is Chikkoria. This was absolutely fantastic. I think this has to be my choice for the winner of the group here. He was really spontaneous all the way through. He's always appealing. His whole style just is like this big smile. It's very positive, and and he uses a wide range of expression in this too. I really enjoyed this a lot.
Well, every solo on this album and pretty much every solo played by Chikkoria is great.
Yeah. Not only him, Christian McBride is on this album too, and he has some pretty great solos as well. We'll get to that, later.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
It has the quality, the best solos have a quality of inevitability. In other words, they wouldn't have been any other way, and they sound as if they were composed. And it takes, that experience and that mind that can compose that on the spot and to create something like this. And so this was a great solo. When I listened to this album, over the last year and a half, however long it's been out,
I've been listening to this quite a lot too.
This particular solo didn't stand out more than other ones. Like I said, I think they're all just as good, but this is certainly a great solo. So no argument here.
I think it's the track. I think the Grammy people like the track, so they kind of
and everyone will
from there
be drawn in by the infectious groove of all blues from the beginning. So it's an easy one to like.
Right, and you get to reminisce a bit about Bill Evans playing on that, but he the original one. But Chick doesn't sound anything like Bill Evans in this solo. It's really very different.
No, it's a nice solo, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And the last one is from the track Mohawk. This is Joshua Redman on the saxophone. I liked this solo. I thought it was really smooth. He used a very conjunct. It was kind of no big leaps in this. It was really a very smooth solo. He really locked in with the rhythm section. Incidentally, on this album, the rhythm section is the same as on the Chikkoria album. It's Christian McBride and Brian Blade again, and the way they just locked in made this solo very appealing, I thought.
The way the rhythm is
was
locked
good. It was
in,
pretty exciting, I think.
He really runs through and hits all the changes with really fast lines and phrases, and I think he can do that so accurately because the rhythm section is so tight.
Yeah.
So it's an excellent solo. I'm not a big fan of his sound, his tone. I've just never been, turned on to it. And this whole album, considering the personnel, I thought that the total is much less than what the parts should sum up to be. We can talk about that later because it shows up again.
Right.
On this track for the solo, anyway, it's a very good solo, and it's structured
This particular
nicely.
track is very good too, so that helps a lot. It's kind of an upbeat sort of track, and it was pretty exciting, the soloing in this. And he had the best solo on this track, I thought.
Yes,
because Brad Meldau also has a solo, but he goes for a more atmospheric kind of feeling.
Yeah. So in this area, it's hard to beat Chikkoria, and with his passing, it won't be a surprise if although he won't be able to receive these awards in person, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins his nomination.
Well, I'm assuming, remember, the Grammy Awards were supposed to be held on January 31st.
Right.
And they delayed them because of the coronavirus.
Oh, that's right.
There was
so
some
it's already been decided, we can assume.
So I think it was decided before Chikkoria passed away. So I assume he might have even been at the awards. So
Possibly, yes.
We really don't know. I have to say, though, my pick in this group is Chikkoria. How about you?
Yeah, I will go with Chikkoria, or to go out on a limb, I'd like the violin solo because it was sort of something different too. I didn't feel that the piano, Gerald Clayton and Joshua Redman were anything that I haven't really experienced on lots of albums. So
okay, well, let's do it this way. I haven't. Okay, so my favorite is the Chikkoria solo, and I also think that's the one that's going to win the Grammy because I think they'll pick him. He's an elder statesman. He was an elder statesman, and I think they would go for him. So which one do you think is going to win the Grammy?
I think Chick will probably win it.
And is that your favorite one too?
I really like this album and everything on it. So yeah, I guess I'd say it's my favorite one.
Okay, so we're all in for Chick on this one. Okay,
Yes.
so let's do that. We'll go through them and we'll say what our favorite one was, and then we'll say what we think the Grammy committee will choose. So we'll have two different choices. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll kind of keep score of who the Grammy chose against who we thought the Grammys would choose. Okay. All right. Next, best jazz vocal album. We have Thana Alexander's album Ona, ONA, Kurt Elling, Secrets of the Best Stories, Carmen Lundy, Modern Ancestors, Somi with the Frankfurt Radio Big Band, conducted by John Beasley. Wow. Holy Room, live at the Alta Oper. And Kenny Washington, What's the Hurry? All right, first, Thana Alexander's album, I guess Ona was what you'd say, O-N-A. It's three capital letters. Oh, they're all capital letters. I don't know. Anyway, what did you already talked about this with me, but you start with this. I'll have something to say about it, too.
I thought this must have been a mistake because it doesn't sound like jazz to me. Sounds like a pop album.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so I don't think she's a jazz singer in any fashion. She doesn't have the stylings and this sort of rhythmic phrasing of a jazz singer. Nothing wrong with her voice. It's very nice pop music, I felt. Overall, the overall impression of the album was kind of bland to me, and that was about it. I didn't really pick up anything to really like or dislike about it. But I know you feel differently about this one, so.
Yeah, this album, like, it kind of reminds me of the way, I don't want to say pop, but popular music, kind of like sort of a little under the radar, really cool popular music used to sound, like in the 90s and 80s. And in fact, she does two cover songs on this. One of them is Massive Attack's track, Teardrop. And I really loved that, the original Massive Attack album from 1998. And I liked this one, too. I like the way she did it. And I think this album also has Everybody Wants to Rule the World, the Tears for Fears track from the 1980s. And I thought these, first of all, this album, it's very, I don't want to say electronic, but it's an electric album. There's this big fat bass and a lot of like...
It's highly produced, which also kind of turned me off from it, too, so...
Okay, but it's got a lot of, kind of cool, kind of percussion grooves at certain points. It just brought me back to what I thought was a better time. So I liked it. I would agree. It doesn't really sound like a jazz album to me. I think albums like this get classified as jazz because when you think about jazz vocals, you think Great American Songbook, songs by Gershwin, that era. And... I think those part of that songbook now, it's not the Great American Songbook. Maybe it's not even great. But songs from the 80s and 90s are making their way into jazz covers now. And there were a few on this album. All right, so I liked it. I recommend this. Give it a listen, I'd say. It's kind of in your face an electric production, okay? So maybe not everybody's thing not every jazz fan's thing, but my pop and rock past made me like this album. Anyway, there you go. Next, Kurt Elling. Okay, a singer I really like. He's got this nice kind of, sort of sweet but manly voice. Okay, he's sort of in the, he's just above the baritone range. He's not, I guess I'd call him a tenor, but he's kind of in the lower end of the tenor range. He doesn't really go up for anything very high. This is, I really loved his last album, The Questions.
Yeah, he should have kept this one. Stories. He should have kept this one a secret, though. Because I've listened to some of his other albums, and he does have a good voice. And I enjoyed when he was doing either unique interpretations of standards, or he was working with an arranger, I forget the name, who was fitting the material for his voice and his stylings, which I think is really important for any vocalist, even the greatest vocalist. The song makes the singer. Here, this just doesn't work to me. The idea sounds good. He's taken some formerly instrumental songs and added vocals to them. But what he's trying to do with the melodies doesn't really come out to something that I find very musical. And overall, this album just is very bland and uninteresting. And this was really hard to get through for me. I think the formula here is just not suiting what he does best. So I give a hard pass on this one.
Okay, I thought this was okay. I didn't dislike it, but if I think Kurt Elling, I'm gonna really go for another album and not this one. Yeah, it didn't really stick in my mind. It was okay. You know, if you like him, you might want to give it a listen. All right, next one, Carmen Lundy, Modern Ancestors. This is a really good album, but again, I question whether it's jazz. What do you think?
I call it jazzy R&B.
Yeah, it's kind of
it's interesting
R&B with jazz touches. You know?
Because we had noted that Gregory Porter is not in the jazz category this year, and his music, it could also be called jazzy R&B. The new album that he has, I found kind of interesting that it was. It's got larger arrangements and more production. Although I found his vocals are actually more confident and he sings really well, but maybe that different production now has pushed him in the other category, where I felt this album could go in an R&B category. I liked it. I found overall it's got a good feeling and atmosphere. The songs carry themselves well, and it gives you a general happy feeling when you listen to it. Carmen Lundy sings very well on it. Nothing in particular to recommend about it, but I did enjoy giving it a listen.
I liked it. Her voice has a lot of soul. I kind of felt like this should have been in the R&B category and Gregory Porter should have been in this category, but it's actually reversed this year. I think Blue Note Records, which is the label that the Gregory Porter album is on.
They're going very funky lately with lots more R&B type of things, I've noticed.
They wanted him in the R&B category because I think they thought it would give him a more exposure.
Right.
So I think that's why they did it. But I feel like he belongs in jazz.
Marketing.
He's really a jazz singer. It's a beautiful voice, by the way. If you haven't heard it, All Rise by Gregory Porter, give it a listen. He's
or the one
of the
I
most
really
appealing
liked,
voices in jazz.
What's the one after that? Back to the Alley? Was that before or after?
Back to the Alley. That was a good one, too.
That's great because it has very sparse arrangements with lots of space, which is really what I'm into these days. And so his voice is there, and it's just supported with just enough instrumentation that it never gets in the way, which happens a lot on modern productions with all those tracks and loops and effects available.
Yeah, Take Me to the Alley. He also did an album called Liquid Spirit that was also really great.
That's good too.
And yeah, there's on the what do you call it, the deluxe version of that, he does a cover of what is that Ramsey Lewis track from a long time ago, the In Crowd.
Oh, In Crowd, right. And he's great too. You can catch some videos of him with only his pianist accompanying him, and it's rather very naked and vulnerable performance, and he just sounds great like that too. So anyway, we digress. Let's get back to
he has a great vocal timbre. Yeah, he's not in this crowd.
Unfortunately,
but anyway,
that's right.
Next, Holy Room. Somi is the vocalist, and she's with the Frankfurt Radio Big Band, conducted by John Beasley, and she also has two friends of hers who are soloists here. Toru Dodo, from Tokyo. Toru Dodo on the piano, and Hervé Samb from Senegal on the guitar. And from John Beasley conducting, the virtuosity of the Frankfurt Radio Big Band, I mean, they swing really hard. Her two soloists, I feel like Somi, the vocalist, who's up for the award here, is the weak link on the album. I kind of wanted to hear this as a Frankfurt Radio Big Band album with those two soloists. I feel like she kind of doesn't live up to the... She was outclassed by everybody, I felt like.
I feel exactly the same. Not to say anything bad about her. She just... The context is just overwhelming. And I feel like the vocals are sort of treading water to stay above this big beast of a band. Yeah. It was some of the interplay between the vocals and the band was interesting, but overall, I couldn't really sort things out in this soup of sound that results. And this Frankfurt Radio Big Band shows up again here, I think, on another recording, don't they?
Well, John Beasley does. Maybe it's him.
No, aren't they in another category with the large ensemble? Yes.
Are they?
The Songs You Like a Lot one.
Oh, they're on that too.
And I feel bad to say this about the vocalist, but even more so on the other album. I just want to take the singers away and let this band just really rock and swing it out and see what they can do, because they sound really like the players are really capable and they're going to do well, but they're sort of, subverting to these vocalists here. So I say, get the vocalists out. Let's hear this Frankfurt Radio Big Band. I'm going to actually look them up after hearing these two recordings and see if they have an all instrumental album where they just, play their asses off. Otherwise, kind of a muddled release, I found.
Yeah, there are older Frankfurt Radio Big Band albums where they're the main attraction.
Yeah, that's what I want to check out.
But in this one, I really enjoyed also the piano playing of Toru Dodo, who I'd never heard of before this album, and Hervé Sam's guitar playing. He's Senegalese, so he has that sort of African way of playing these kind of almost circular sort of patterns that are really hypnotic. I really like that a lot. I don't want to disrespect Somi so much. I mean, she's a perfectly good singer, but I just feel like the instrumentalists that she has on this album are really very high caliber, and too high caliber for her in this circumstance anyway. All right, last one. What's the Hurry? Kenny Washington.
Oh yeah. This is the fun one, and this is the real jazz one here. He has a very interesting voice. You're not quite sure if it's a male voice or a female voice when you first hear it.
It's a high tenor,
and it's
really
a
light.
Tenorish voice, although he does have sort of lower overtones in it. But he can just swing any phrase. He's got incredible phrasing and timing, and he's having a great time. You get a feeling that with every phrase there's a smile and a wink. And this album is mostly, I believe it's all standards, actually. Yeah. Which you could say is either safe or daring. But what he shows here is that he knows all these songs and he knows how to phrase them. I think he could probably sing, any jazz standard or other original from, jazz groups or musicians. And I know he's been around for a while, but he's sort of getting noticed now finally. And very unique sounding timbre to his voice. And it's just, really, it's one of those singers, like we don't have this year, but Catherine Russell has been nominated in the past few years. And he has a lot of that quality. When this voice comes on, your mood is just going to change to happy, because they're conveying that wonderful, happiness they get through singing, and it's very infectious. And his singing is just great. So this was a lot of fun for me to listen to this album. What's the Hurry?
What's the Hurry? It's called. Yeah, right. He has a good time singing, as Russ said, and so do we listening to it.
Yeah,
this was a really fun record. I kind of. If you got a rainy day there, just put this on and the sun will come out. It really is that
it could have been,
infectious.
If you have a whole album of standards, it could be really boring because I know all these tunes. But here was a voice that I didn't know, singing tunes that I already knew, but in a really fun way. And so I was with him right to the end. So, yeah, absolutely.
I enjoyed this a lot too. It's not a very long album either, so it's easy to get through. Although you'll kind of wish it was longer, I think, by the end. All right, so who do you like best in this group?
I like Kenny Washington.
Me too. Who do you think is going to win? I don't think it's going to be Kenny Washington.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I bet they're going to give it to Kurt Elling.
Oh, because he's made a vocal jazz album on social themes.
Well. Is it? Are these social themes?
Some of them are, yeah.
Okay. Because he's won before, and I think they go for.
That would be terrible.
I don't. It would be a bad choice this year. I think he won with The Questions, which I thought deserved it that year. That was a really good album. But I bet they'll give it to him again. They always do that. Anyway, that's my pick. What do you?
I'd like to see, I think like Catherine Russell, Kenny Washington is a guy who's been working at his art and craft for some time without a lot of recognition, and he could use that. Elling's been noticed already. I think he has a good fan base. So, like I said, one good outcome of an award is talent deserving of wider recognition, and that's why I'd like to see Washington win it. But
I'd like to see him win it too. Give me a pick though. Who do you think is going to win?
I have no idea on this one.
This really is kind of if Gregory Porter were in this group, I think he'd definitely win. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I don't think he'd have much competition here. Although I think the Kenny Washington album, it really does deserve attention. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Okay, best instrumental jazz instrumental album. Now, these are my favorite. Well, they're my second favorite. We'll get to this later. Type of jazz album, but the field this year. Oh, this was the hardest field for me to get through, with one exception, of course.
This is pretty poor nomination, so I'm very disappointed here.
Yeah, okay. Now the first one is let's comment on these one by one. So the first one is Ambrose Akamusire. Is that how you say his name? Akamusire.
I believe so.
On the Tender Spot, A Very Calloused Moment. This was a big jazz album this year. Okay, now I think Akamusire, he's really you have to kind of like the type of thing he does. He's got sort of he's a trumpet player, and he's got his sound is very kind of
ugly.
Dark kind of. It's not. If you think of like great trumpet virtuosos, their sound is usually really bright and sunny, kind of. It just kind of rings out. Whereas his doesn't.
The trend in recent years is for this darker sound. There's a lot of players that are aiming and achieving this kind of sound now.
Yeah, his sound would be the opposite of what you usually get, deep nighttime, and he kind of he explores a lot of the timbres of the instrument. He'll like kind of. Well, you're the trumpet player. You can tell me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan
kind of get
of
the spitting sound a lot. And
I'm not a fan of his playing so much, or of his compositions. I find the solos to be kind of rambling, and the thing I like most that he's done actually is the album that he played with Tom Harrell on. I think it's called Something Gold, Something Blue, and because Tom Harrell's a master composer, and having those compositions and sort of counterpoint with Tom Harrell's trumpet, I actually enjoyed that one, but I haven't really enjoyed many of his solo releases, and this is another one that I've listened to it a few times, and I think I'm done listening to it. It just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I can't even imagine him being a sideman, because he's so. How would he fit in? I guess he would have to change his approach. One of the things I got on this, I thought this album was okay. It wasn't really what I wanted to hear, but I can kind of see why people like him. He's kind of intriguing. He doesn't. It's not what he plays that's really interesting, but it's sort of like what approach or the sound that he's going to make. So I found myself kind of hanging on to, what's the next phrase going to sound like, or things like that. He kind of colors his sounds really in interesting ways. So this isn't really an enjoyable album, really, but it is kind of intriguing. I'll give it that. I don't know that I'm going to listen to it much, but definitely worth a listen, I'd say.
My notes have disjointed again, so. Next,
Terry Lynn Carrington and Social Science. Waiting Game is the name of the album. This is a double. This of the entire field, of the jazz field and the also instrumental. This was the album I liked the least. In fact, I didn't like it at all. I shouldn't even say I liked it the least. That's being too polite. I found this painful to listen to, not because it was kind of off-putting, or is like really kind of brash and like noisy, but because it was just so, I don't know, it was just bland. It's first of all, a very kind of political album, but it's not political in any sense of, we have to handle this particular problem. It's kind of more kind of general sloganeering on the songs, and at the end, there's a 4-movement sort of instrumental piece that was, it felt really disjointed. It was kind of noisy. There was a lot of different people playing different things at the same time sort of thing, like you heard a lot in again, what I think of as 20th century music. I didn't like this at all.
I'm not sure this qualifies as a jazz album.
We should mention Terry Lynn Carrington is a drummer, so whether she's in it.
The category description says, for albums containing at least 51% playing time of new instrumental jazz recordings. I don't think there's 51% jazz here. And there's a lot of vocals on this album, too. I found this insufferable. I would never listen to it again. Long, boring, and not in my definition of jazz.
I think the very long instrumental composition at the end is what counts as the instrumental part.
Is that the jazz part? I think I was.
The instrumental part. I don't know how this got into this. I was numb by that time anyway, so. I don't know how this got into this category.
The name is
really
Waiting
an
Game.
Instrumental album.
I was really waiting for the end of this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next.
When we had the assignment to listen to all these, it took me I couldn't listen to all this in the same day. I was like, I had to get away from it. Anyway, next. Okay, Gerald Clayton, pianist. Happening live at the Village Vanguard.
What's happening?
Yeah, it was good. I don't know much about this pianist. Again, this was a new name for me. I think he's is he the guy from the Netherlands? Am I confusing him with someone else?
I believe he does have some sort of international background. I did look up his bio. Yeah, this is an okay album. I didn't think it was outstanding. It's one of the few on the list that I listened to and said, okay, and I followed along. I didn't find the overall interplay between the musicians and the other soloists anything special. We already commented on his one solo that was nominated. I'm actually surprised that this was nominated in 2 categories. It's certainly an okay album, but I just thought it's kind of an average release myself. So.
Yeah, I should mention this guy is he was born in Utrecht in the Netherlands, but he's started his jazz career in Los Angeles in the USA. So he was really raised there. He's practically American. He probably is American. It doesn't say here, so I don't know. So he's born abroad. Okay. He's very common. He's also fairly young. He's 36 years old, so maybe they're trying to get him some exposure. Okay, next, Chikkoria, Christian McBride, Brian Blade, Trilogy 2. This was a major wow. Okay, now if anybody knows Chikkoria's album Trilogy with the same ensemble, these three great musicians from 2014, that was fantastic in itself, but I thought this was even better, mostly because the entire album is these 3 musicians, and there aren't any guest players on it.
Yeah, no extra singers on this one.
Yeah, that was okay. Those were good, but I really wanted to hear these 3, and man, they were just fantastic. Every solo was great. Christian McBride had these fantastic melodic bass solos. I was really impressed by that. The whole thing is just pure joy from beginning to end. I can't think of enough superlatives for this.
Yeah, Chikkoria's done so many types of music, and when I was younger, I enjoyed fusion jazz and electronic music. I remember back in, must be 1988 or so, I went to see the Chikkoria Electric Band, and I think he had Dave Weckl, John Patitucci. I had second row seats, and who also played was Spyro Gyra.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. And I remember I had second row, and I thought I'm going to have a good view into this huge South African bongo player. I guess he was known locally, sat right in front of me and turned around and talked to me through the whole show. I'll never forget. He was just annoying. John Smythe was his name. John, if you're out there. Anyway, but these days, I don't really enjoy fusion, jazz, and electronic music like I did in the old days. So I always gravitate towards Chikkoria's acoustic piano playing. And these two albums, the trilogy, of course the solos and everything are great, but the interplay and communication between the musicians is what's the highlight for me. And they're also
absolutely that too. The
recording is excellent for live recordings. They're not available in high res that I've seen, so I think they're not worried about his production was not worried about jumping on the new bandwagon. I think they have the same recording engineer Chikkoria used since the 1970s, and so all the instruments are recorded perfectly, and you can just sense the communication between the players on both these releases. And just fabulous. I can listen to them again and again and always find something new going on between these three.
Yeah, this is probably the jazz album I listened to more than any other one last year. It's pure joy. You mentioned Kenny Washington brought a smile. And I got that from Chikkoria too. All three of them really. Just from the opening track, Chick's sort of intro, from the first notes he plays, it's just riveting. I just love this so much. Trilogy 2, everybody. Definitely add this to your collection or just put it in your streaming or whatever. It's just fantastic. Okay, last one. Round Again. This is another ensemble that got together again after many years. Joshua Redman, Brad Meldau, the pianist. And the same rhythm section is on Trilogy 2, Christian McBride and Brian Blade. This is pretty interesting. Now, these four played, the last time they recorded together was in 1994. I actually looked this up. It's a long time ago, really at the beginning of Joshua Redman's career, or his recording career anyway. And they've reassembled and done this album. And there's some real hotshot musicians on this album. And like Russ, well, I'll let you say it. Go ahead. Please give your opinion here, and I'll kind of add to it.
Yeah, my notes say good, but not great. The sum is less than the expected total of the parts. Very good players. I just never got the feeling of rising to some sort of, that next level of communication or production. It was good. But, I listened to it 2 or 3 times, this release. And, as I said, I'm not a huge Redman fan. I remember seeing him when he was very young live at Jazz Festival. Meldau, I like a lot of things he's done. I'm not a huge fan. Christian McBride is, the bass guy right now. But I have seen a few live performances of Meldau that were very good. When I watch his live performance and compare it to the recordings that I have, I feel like he's maybe brings something to a live situation that doesn't capture on record so well as some performers are. But the whole of this album, it just never, especially as because it's a reunion of players who have played before, it doesn't quite capture the magic that one would expect from this combination.
Yeah, they do lock in really well, but that's probably the rhythm section there. McBride and Blade are so good together.
Right.
I just kind of, I just expected more from this caliber of musicians, The playing is fine. There's no problem. I think it's probably the compositions that they didn't have enough. It didn't feel free to me. It didn't feel like there was enough space. Right. I'm actually a very big Brad Meldau fan, especially of the piano, the trio. His trio is really fantastic. Check out a record they made called, there's so many good ones, but the most recent one, Seymour Reads the Constitution, I thought was fantastic. So you should listen to that one by Brad Meldau Trio. All right. This one, it was good. It's well worth hearing. It's an enjoyable record, but it's kind of, I just expected so much more. I thought it was a little bit of a letdown, but I can't really complain about it. It's perfect. It's a perfectly good album. All right, ready? Next one. We gotta pick who's gonna win this group.
Chick wins, or else the whole thing is a sham.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna say my favorite is definitely Chick. Okay, and he should definitely win this. If the Academy, I'm gonna pick Chick to win the Grammy, the Academy to pick. What are they? So I keep saying the Academy. That's the Recording Academy, right? Yeah. I'm going to pick them to pick Chick too, because I'm going to have faith. They may choose Akamusire. It's possible if they want to be arty. I thought Trilogy 2 was the best album here, though. Anyway,
Definitely.
Here we go. Best Large Jazz Ensemble Album. This is your field, Russ. You want to take the lead here?
I did play in lots of big bands over the years. Mm-hmm. Again, for albums containing at least 51% playing time of new ensemble jazz recordings, we have Dialogues on Race by Greg August. And
bass player.
We have the Orchestra plays John Beasley, the director of the Orchestra, although I don't think all the tunes are his originals, but there are some.
There are a few monk tunes on this one.
There are a few monk tunes there. Yeah. Who's we've heard before. I think he was been nominated in the past.
I think he's won in the past.
In the past, perhaps, yes. Then we have The Intangible Between by Orrin Evans and the Captain Black Big Band. And we have the presumptuous title of Songs You Like a Lot, which maybe I necessarily do not, by John Hollenbeck with Theo Bleckman, Kate McGarry, Gary Versace, and the Frankfurt Radio Big Band again.
Who really aren't swinging here the way they did on the other album. This is an odd album.
Because of these vocalists. And then we have the Data Lords by Maria Schneider Orchestra.
Oh, wait! Did I say Trilogy 2 is my favorite jazz album of the year? I like this one a lot too. All right, we'll get to that. All right, first Dialogues on Race, Greg August. All right, what do you want? Do you want to start this one?
I don't want to listen to any more albums that have recitations on them. I found this dark, plodding, and despite there are some spots where there's nice instrumental work, his bass playing and some other musicianship. As far as the sort of ensemble parts and keeping the energy that you can with a large ensemble through different, types of orchestration. I just felt I was dropping out all the time on this album, and I didn't enjoy it. So a hard pass for me.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy this either. I will say about Greg August, he is actually involved in classical music. He's associated with the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra, and you can tell when he bows his instrument, even when he plucks, he gets this big, full, beautiful sound. Something obviously he worked on a lot. Okay, his tone. So his playing is actually very good. I liked the first track on this, and then it started to kind of plod. It got really... This whole album was just tedious to me. And again, it's called Dialogues on Race. It wasn't really I looked into the background of this. It wasn't really a virtue signaling album. He composed this when Barack Obama won the presidential election in 2008. I think he composed this and finished it in 2010, and then never recorded it. And then he just recorded it now, when race is just in the air in the U.S. So it's not really, it's not lecturing or anything like that. They're just sort of these little sort of dialogue, kind of spoken recitation sort of things on the album that deal with certain issues. The whole thing, to me, there were some tracks that were good, they swung, but all in all, this kind of had the feeling of like a high concept, like art school graduation project to me. It was one of those things where if you're in art school, I had a friend in art school, and he had to do his final presentation thing, and it was some performance art project that was just really horrible to sit through, but he's your friend, so you kind of you applaud and things like that. This didn't do anything for me really. Okay.
Yeah, let's get on to the next meat and potatoes here.
All right.
The Orchestra. I like this one. This great arrangements, hot solos. These are my notes. There's a harmonica on here too, I think.
Hot solos.
And a variety of styles. I don't know if this really excites me as much as the previous albums, the Orchestra. He's got two other ones, I believe, that I've heard. And maybe I haven't listened to this one enough yet. But I mean, in the same character, unique arrangements and great playing. So yeah, no problem with this nomination. I think it's one of the kind of original and unique large jazz ensembles out there today.
Yeah, they're great. They're great players. There were 2 albums. The Monkestra did 2 albums before this. They were all Thelonious Monk compositions. It was Volume 1 and Volume 2, and both of them were fantastic.
Yeah,
Seek those out if you haven't heard them. This is the 3rd, and it has a few Monk compositions on it. Some of them are Beasley's compositions. It's good. The playing is fantastic. There's some odd decisions. I think the production kind of... It's a good sounding album, but there's some odd things about the production I didn't like. Like tracks 3 and 4 fade out. When have you ever heard like a
bands
jazz?
Don't usually fade out.
Yeah, big bands usually don't fade out. That kind of got me, and I was really getting into track 3. I don't have my track list in front of me here. I could check this out right now. It was one of the Monk compositions. Hang on.
Well, maybe they just couldn't decide on the ending. You never know.
Yeah, maybe, but. It was Monk's Mood, and Gregoire Marais was playing on that. We'll talk about him more later, too. He's a harmonica player. And track 4 was Donna Lee. Not a Monk composition, I don't think, right? Yeah. But, they both faded out, and especially Monk's Mood. I wanted that to continue. I kind of wanted to hear it out to the end.
Yeah, that's what the overall impression isn't as strong as the first 2 albums.
I also
still good,
thought...
but, yeah...
Yeah, Beasley's his arrangement. I guess it's their arrangements, a rhythming and off minor, the two Monk tracks. I feel like Monk's music. It's really quirky. It feels very angular, and it's sort of surprising. And I feel like he kind of smoothed out those angles in his arrangements here. It wasn't as it was. He kind of softened the quirkiness, and it was a little too slick. I liked his arrangements on the previous 2 albums a lot better. I don't know what happened here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
which brings us to the next one, the Intangible Between, Orrin Evans and the Captain Black Big Band, which I should say is the only nomination among these on Smoke Records.
Oh,
which is nice.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, and I feel, pretty much the same about this band as I do the Monkestra. Great arranging, very good smoking solos. It's exciting. A little edgy, wilder too. A lot of edgy stuff here. Taking some chances with the fresh sound, and so
edgy's a good word.
I like this ensemble, and I'm happy to see both them and Smoke getting a mention in the Grammys. So I'm pretty positive about this selection.
You should mention, what is it about Smoke Sessions that you like so much?
Well, they started as a jazz club. You can read the story. I don't want to state anything inaccurate, but I believe it was the owner and one of the workers, who I believe was a German immigrant, who was just working in the bar or restaurant. And then they decided that there were so many great sessions and after hours things happening at the club that they should record them. And they, without having any background in recording technology, they sort of studied and got a lot of advice from musicians on which microphones and techniques of recording capture the best sound. And it's turned into a record label, including live performances, but also studio albums. And they have some of the best and upcoming players and veteran players in the New York area. And I just find that they're putting out the releases that I want to listen to again and again in the past several years. So I have lots of them that I can recommend. I will at the end in some of these categories. But it's nice to see one of their larger ensembles, the Orrin Evans and the Captain Black Big Band, get a mention here. And keep your eye on Smoke Sessions, because they're doing a lot of nice things. They have some upcoming releases too that I want to talk about in the spring. So very good stuff.
All right, next one.
Yeah, songs you like a lot, again with the Frankfurt Radio Big Band. This is strange to me to be in the large jazz ensemble album category, because we don't get to hear the ensemble enough. We have these these vocalists here. And I didn't find that the arrangements work really well with the vocalists. And I wrote in my notes, I just kept saying this as I was listening to it. I want to hear the band. I want to hear the band. So Seva's comment as the other, what was the vocalist album that we talked about? The Somi, was it?
The Somi,
I really just wanted to hear this band let rip. So yeah, I'm sure it's a great band, but this recording doesn't show them off to what they're capable of. So we shouldn't be here as far as I'm concerned, as far as the recording goes.
I agree. I mean, just the title tells you it shouldn't be there. Songs you like a lot. Okay, it's not really a large ensemble album. It's more of a vocal album.
Yes.
There are multiple vocalists on it. And one of the vocalists is Kate McGarry, and I rather like her. But the arrangement, the Frankfurt Radio Big Band isn't really on their, they're not playing to their strengths here. They really, they swing hard, and none of these songs swing at all. Now, the songs themselves they're famous songs. How Deep Is Your Love by the Bee Gees, they do. Fire and Rain, remember that?
Yeah.
From by James Taylor. Yeah, Don't Give Up. That was a Kate Bush and Peter Gabriel duet in the 80s. So these are the and they do a song at the end called Knows Only God, which is sort of like a rearrangement of God Only Knows by the Beach Boys.
This should be like songs old people liked a lot, like our age and
songs
older.
old people used to like a lot.
Yeah.
But what's happened here is the arrangements, they sort of deconstruct the songs. They don't sound like, they're covers of the songs that you're familiar with. You almost have to kind of put the pieces together to really get it. Yeah, they've disguised them a lot. It was, I was interested to hear it. I don't think I'm ever going to want to hear it again.
No.
I like the songs though, but I didn't necessarily like what they did with them. All right, last one, Data Lords. This is my other favorite jazz album of the year, and this is actually a really high concept record, the Maria Schneider Orchestra. The concept, Data Lords, it's a double album, and I actually have this on a CD, and the program is split between the two CDs. CD 1, or part 1, I guess you'd say if you're well, you're not going to download it. I'll get to that in a moment. Well, yeah, you can download it from her site, but you're not going to stream this anywhere. Deals with the computer world. Okay, this whole manufactured world that we now live in, cyberspace, and it has kind of like a heavy. The music on this. The arrangements are kind of heavy. They're dense. There's a lot going on. And then disc 2, or part 2, deals with the natural world, and it's a lot lighter. It has kind of like it feels more spacious. And of course, most of us are going to enjoy disc 2 on this more than disc 1, but I guess it depends on your temperament. The theme is kind of heavy versus light, dense versus spacious, aggressive versus carefree and gentle. On the natural world disc, there's a lot of accordion. I loved this record a lot, and I really like everything Maria Schneider does, basically, but I thought this was really her best album to date, or her best set of compositions to date. I think it's a must hear, and if you're really excited about it, and you're going to go to your Deezer and try to download it, I hate to disillusion you, but you can't do that. Maria Schneider is very protective of her music, and you have to buy it on her site. You can't even stream it for free. And it costs. This is a double album. The CD costs $35. That's American dollars. Plus, they had to ship it to me here in Japan. It was like $50 for this album. I'm glad I have it, but it really cost me. The MP3, if you want to download it, it's a high-quality MP3, $25. It's a lot of money. So, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm a little confused with the categories here, because this is considered a large jazz ensemble album, but I feel like it could easily be in a different category of,
which one?
Well, let's see, what do we have? Best Contemporary Instrumental Album. Because I don't feel that this music is classified very well in only the jazz category. I think there's a lot of influences here. So I think this could easily have gone into an instrumental category outside of jazz.
Yeah. Maria Schneider, she's an orchestrator, but she also composes this music. And I get the impression that a lot of the parts are, certainly the solos aren't written now. She's got some pretty hot-shot soloists in her orchestra. But I think she actually composes quite a lot of these works.
Yeah. For me, this is very interesting, and I preferred album 2 content. I say it's interesting. I don't feel very emotionally moved by this music. I've listened to it a few times, and I found it engaging in an intellectual but not too much of an emotional way when I listened to it.
I'll agree with that.
So it's a cerebral listen for me, which is a good thing.
I thought so too.
Sometimes there's a lot here to listen to, and there's a lot of variety in here too.
A lot of really interesting ideas, I thought.
I guess what I feel when you hear the category large jazz ensemble.
I see what you're saying here.
It's paraphrasing big band, but this is not the same kind of music as Monkestra and
it really
Orrin Evans and the Captain Black big band. This is something different, and that's why I feel maybe it would be served better in an instrumental category or something else, because I feel we're comparing two different things if we're trying to decide which one should win an award here. It's not big band music. This is something quite a bit different, I feel.
Yeah, it is large ensemble music, though, so I guess it does fit.
Sure.
Categories don't really, these days especially, categories are kind of, the boundaries of categories are being broken, so this
isn't Count Basie.
A lot of things can get lost. Yeah, it's definitely not Count Basie. Yeah. I want to say, though, if anybody's put off by the word cerebral, this isn't like cold at all. It's very engaging. It's just not it's not a terribly emotional listening. It's really trying to kind of give you ideas more. I enjoyed it a lot. I do tend to like high concept things, though, but only if they're effective. And I thought this was very effective. And it also it talks about an issue, a really genuine issue of our era. This whole idea of computers and the internet just taking over our lives. And it does it, not only that, it does it all in there are no vocals on this album. It does it all in instrumental terms. It's pretty remarkable, like that these messages get across through the instrumentals. Now she gives a little help if you actually buy the CD. It's a beautifully produced package, and she writes extensive notes on each composition, like what she was thinking of when she did it, and that's very helpful in listening to it. I thought it was a fantastic album. Okay, who's going to win this category?
Oh, I don't know.
My favorite album in this category was Maria Schneider Orchestra, Data Lords, and that's also my pick to win the category. I think they'll choose this one. So what's your favorite one, first of all? Just for you.
Just what I enjoy most would either be the Beasley or Evans.
Okay.
Out of those two, I'd like to see Evans win because Beasley's won or nominated before. I'd like to see someone new get it. At the same time, I can see, Maria Schneider's been has she been nominated before?
Yeah, she's been nominated and won before. So has Beasley. Right. Orrin Evans is nominated every time he puts out an album and hasn't. I don't think he's ever won, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Maybe I'd like to see, someone who hasn't won yet win. Otherwise, as to who they'll pick, I'm not.
You're not going to
sure I can
say. Guess?
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah,
I'm going to predict they're going to pick Maria Schneider. She's an Academy favorite.
Okay.
In spite of the difficulty in obtaining her album, you have to go to her website to get it. We'll post the link for that in case you're interested. And you have money.
Well, that's a whole other topic we can talk about too. But certain artists or record labels that are very protective of their music. I understand completely the rationale, but I also understand that means a lot of people are not going to ever listen to it, no matter what it wins.
I know it's
especially
horrible.
young people.
This music really deserves to be heard.
Yeah,
and it's not an easy. album, it really does require a few listens, and it'll, you know, a lot of the knots in it will kind of start to untie. You'll kind of get it. It's a very appealing album, but it takes a bit of time for you to warm to it, I think. All right, next we're on my favorite category in jazz, Best Latin Jazz Album. Oh, I just love Latin jazz. It's jazz, and it's got all that usually great Latin percussion, but not always. In this case, this is kind of an odd field actually this year as well. Yes. All right, so let's start. The first one, this was a real revelation. The Afro-Peruvian Jazz Orchestra, Tradiciones. All right, and this is a kind of laid back, you know, percussive ensemble playing these Latin jazz arrangements. This is just a very enjoyable sort of a very enjoyable album. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, let's go through the list first, and we'll give comments.
Oh, you want to do that? Okay.
Yeah. And the next one is Four Questions.
Yeah.
The Arturo O'Farrell and the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra. The next we have City of Dreams, Chico Pinheiro.
He's a Brazilian guitarist.
Mm-hmm. Then we have Viento y Tiempo live at Blue Note Tokyo.
Ooh,
that's
Tokyo.
Gonzalo Rubalcaba and how do you say that?
Aimé Nuviola.
This is
both of
the
them
only
are Cuban
jazz one here. And we have Train's Delight from Poncho Sanchez.
Yeah, now he's Puerto Rican. He's of Puerto Rican descent at least. I don't know if
I believe he was
yeah.
American.
He's born in New York, maybe.
Yeah,
I can check that really fast. I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay, he is. No, he's born in Laredo, Texas.
Oh, Texas. There you go.
Yeah, but he is.
So. I thought it was a heartland kind of.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
So the Tradiciones, the Afro-Peruvian Jazz Orchestra. Now here's another recording that's not easy. I believe it's a digital-only release.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist on physical media, which my biggest question when I searched it out and listened and wrote some notes is I wonder why and how they picked this, because not many people have listened to it. I thought this is a fun, good recording. I believe it's the only recording by this group that I could find. It's fun, but I don't know why it's in the best Latin jazz album of all that were released this year. Only thing I could think when I listened to it is I'd like to hear more from this group because, it's an enjoyable recording. Kind of a mystery to me where it came from and how it got on the list, but.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have nothing to add except I think I really wish this was on a physical media because I would buy this. I liked it a lot. It's a bit short. It's got 6 tracks only.
It's a very short recording.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people heard it before it was on this list.
I'm kind of hoping they'll sort of make a deluxe edition and add a few tracks and then release it on
I want to hear more from this group.
Media.
They have some promise.
Yeah.
The next one, 4 Questions. This one is another one that doesn't have a lot of continuity. It's got some recitations. It didn't take me anywhere, and I didn't like it. I'll come straight out and say it. I'm not going to listen to it again.
This actually got worse. I felt like it got worse as it went on. At the end, there was this long instrumental composition that just didn't do anything really. I didn't like it at all. By the way, speaking of recitations, one of the reciters was Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West, and doing one of his ecstatic recitations of great people from African American culture, Black American culture, and he's very inspiring. If you ever hear him on YouTube, he's got real presence. But somehow this track that he's on doesn't work. Okay, first of all, he's sort of produced into the background a little bit, so he doesn't really come across with the power that he usually does. And I feel like the instrumental that's kind of paired with him just kind of it's a kind of gilding the lily. I don't think this piece should have been on here really. I don't think it works.
I don't want to hear any recitations on my jazz albums.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of recitations on jazz albums either.
Just stop it. Yeah. So
next, City of Dreams.
Let's move on to the next one. This one, actually, I was surprised by this because I guess he's a Brazilian guitarist.
He is Brazilian.
At first listen, you'll likely question, is this Latin jazz? It doesn't really have an overwhelming Latin or Brazilian presence on a lot of the tracks. And it's very subdued playing, relaxing mood. I was waiting for it to pick up and become a Latin jazz album to me. But I realized his style is a very relaxed and laid back approach. And there's some very nice guitar playing on here. He's just not he's not a show-off player. And I enjoyed his tone and the overall feel of the album when I got through it. It's not a standout sort of release. I'm actually surprised that it got nominated because it's very laid back, as some of the other albums we're going to talk about in a bit are to me. So I'm surprised it got picked out. But I did enjoy it, and I will probably listen to it again.
Yeah, again, I think the only reason this album is in the Latin jazz category is because he's Brazilian.
Yeah.
Okay. There are 2 tracks I think that have like a bossa nova influence to them, but really this sounds like a straight jazz album. It was good though. I really liked the album. Yeah. Well worth hearing. I don't know much else about him actually.
No, I don't know.
All right, next
this is my first time.
Next one, Viento y Tiempo, live at the Blue Note Tokyo. This is Gonzalo Rubalcaba, one of the great Latin jazz piano improvisers, and with the vocalist Aimee Nuviola, who's I've only recently become aware of. Actually, I don't know how long she's been around. I like this a lot too. It's just this big Cuban sort of party. The Japanese crowd seemed to enjoy it a lot. And they were very entertaining. Aimee Nuviola was actually very good at entertaining the crowd. Not always easy to do. Well, it's easy to do in Japan, but she got them to like sing along at certain points. I thought this was really enjoyable. It was a really fun album. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I said it was
again not on physical media though.
My notes said it was fun. Again, I wonder how they picked it. It seems more like a random live release to me. I like the music. I didn't care for the vocalist that much.
Okay.
It was a good atmosphere. They obviously had a good crowd. I like that it's a Cuban jazz style, and Rubalcaba's piano work is nice. I'd actually like to hear a studio date of something maybe a little more organized and set from this group too. Nice fun release. I didn't find it outstanding overall in the production or anything, but it's a good time recording.
All right, and the last one, this is a big favorite of both of ours. I know, Train's Delight, meaning John Coltrane, Train's Delight, Trane, by Pancho Sanchez. Now, I mentioned he was Puerto Rican, but I'm not sure about. He was Puerto Rican descent, but I'm not sure about that. His last name Sanchez would be Mexican. Yeah. So, and his bio doesn't say anything about his racial background. They just say he was born in Laredo, Texas, and that he's played in these jazz groups and salsa groups, and he's inspired by Tito Puente, which kind of gave me the Puerto Rican idea. I'm not really sure, so I take that back. I don't know, but it's very good. This album,
mixing Coltrane with Latin rhythms might sound like a strange recipe, but it's very fun and it works. And his albums are, in general, really good. What was the previous one? Psychedelic Blues, I think.
Yeah, he did Psychedelic Blues, which somebody mentioned wasn't psychedelic or bluesy. No, I think it's the name of one of the tunes. That's why it's on there.
It's just that his albums are always fun and enjoyable arrangements, and the cumulative effect of all of the songs and arrangements are always good. I've actually read on some reviews of albums that he's criticized by percussionists. Or his technique is not great, and he hasn't improved as a player. I read some of these, which not being a percussionist, like to me, forgive me, percussionists, but drums and percussion are always in the background. You guys are mood makers, and as long as you can keep the beat, that's good enough for me.
It's different in Latin music, though. That's a whole sort of chain of things that are happening.
Still,
and it's sort of
you're setting the tempos and the moods and keeping everything in there. And I don't want to notice it too much, so I couldn't be critical of his playing. But I've always enjoyed the total effect of his albums. And I've dug back into his catalog, which Deezer has a lot of too. And I've been generally pleased with all of his albums. So I'm kind of happy to see that this album in there, because we were listening to it since it came out, and it was really good. However,
what intrigued...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, what intrigued me about this is the whole idea of setting John Coltrane's music to like these Latin rhythms.
That's a great concept, yeah.
Yeah, it is a great concept, but there was also a few years back, Carlos Henriquez, who plays in the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, did a Latin jazz album of Dizzy Gillespie's music called Dizzy Conclave. Look that up. That's also a fantastic thing. I really like this idea of taking these great jazz icons, the music of these great jazz icons, and setting them to these Latin rhythms, with all the same melodies and stuff. It's really fantastic. It just gives it a different, a whole different feel.
But Dizzy had a lot of Cuban music in his with Chano Puzo and things from the 40s, the Cuban influence. It's really interesting to have the Coltrane tunes in this way. So this definitely is the most enjoyable album for me. I think right at this point, we haven't mentioned what we would have liked to have seen, but in the Latin jazz in particular, there was an album that I came across this year, and then I introduced it to you, and it didn't get a mention. But that was an album called Rebirth by Ray Mantilla.
Ray Mantilla, yeah. And
Ray Mantilla is another conga percussion player centered around New York, who is really a big figure in the emerging sort of Afro-Cuban scene of music, going back a long time. And he played with many jazz greats who were experimenting with sound. I believe he played with Mingus. He was also in Dizzy Gillespie's band when it toured Cuba. And he's very much a ensemble player. I don't think he likes to stick out as the center player, but musicians were always in his praise as a great percussionist. And this is a very subtle album compared to the Poncho Sanchez when it's on the Savant label, Rebirth. But it was released in 2020. It could have been a nomination, and Ray Mantilla passed away before its release.
Right.
But he did live long enough to review all of the recordings and give his approval to the final mixing and mastering of them. So I would have liked to have seen this album get some recognition for a player who contributed a lot to the Latin jazz genre and was well respected, but maybe people forgot about him in his later years, and so this is sort of his last contribution that was out there, and it sort of went under the radar. So it's a very nice recording, if a bit subdued. So anyway, to Ray Mantilla, thank you very much. And anyone who's looking for something that's not on the list to listen to, I can definitely recommend that one. And I'll link to it in the notes for this podcast.
Very nice. So who do you choose from? Who do you choose in this group? Which you like the best? This was actually a pretty good group.
I liked
for everything but the
Poncho Sanchez for fun, or the one I'll go for Chico Pinheiro, and maybe next time for the Afro-Peruvian, after I hear some more of them. Yeah.
Okay, so my pick from this group, I liked really all of this except for the Arturo Faro.
Yes.
I'll go for Pancho Sanchez since I've been listening to that all year.
Yeah.
Train's Delight. One. Yeah, I really liked it a lot. It's a fun record. Who's going to win the group? I'm going to predict Gonzalo Rubalcaba.
Yeah, possible. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I say.
The other thing, before we go to the next category, because we've covered all the jazz ones, and we're going to go to the contemporary instrumental music. However, 2020 was the 100th anniversary of the birth of Charlie Parker, the arguably most important bebop musician, innovator of jazz. And there was a great album on Smoke Session Records called Bird at 100. Mm-hmm. And it was a celebration of the contributions of Charlie Parker to jazz. And it features three of the great alto players of today, Vincent Herring, Bobby Watson, and also Gary Bartz. And it's a great celebration of alto sax and Charlie Parker's music. Also includes Dave Kikoski on piano. It's a great live recording. Actually, it's a lot to pack in with three different alto players, but there's some smoking solos and great ensemble work here. And this is another album historically significant. We'll probably be talking in the next couple of weeks about all the Beethoven records that came out in the anniversary. So not to forget Charlie Parker at 100 years, sort of moment in jazz that I think the awards should mention. So I would have liked to have seen this album get a mention in the jazz category. Another one on Smoke Session Records that I'd like to point out is an album called Shuffle and Deal by the seminal trumpeter Eddie Henderson, who's been around for years. He recorded this album in 2020 at the age of 80.
Yeah.
80 years old, and he still has great trumpet chops. This is a nice album. He's not showing any sign of age. His chops aren't failing him like tends to happen with trumpet players. So I'd like to give some recognition to him. He's still going strong. A couple other albums on Smoke, too, that I thought were good for this year. Peter Bernstein, the guitarist, had a great smoking release, What Happens Next, although I think this came out too late for Grammy nominations, although it may not get recognized. A very subtle and intriguing guitarist. And the trombonist, Steve Davis, has a nice release called Correlations, which has some great ensemble work. And also on a high note, another fine trumpet player, Jeremy Pelt. And I know, Mike, you know some
I
of
like
this
this
stuff.
album too. The Art of
Intimacy, a drummerless recording, so just piano, bass, and trumpet. And
there are apparently going to be more of those. That's a volume.
This was volume 1. So he's a trumpeter that I always look forward to, but doesn't get a lot of recognition like many others. So those are some other albums I just thought I'd throw out there that I enjoyed this year, but don't show up in any categories. And one more in the Latin jazz category, on the Savant label, a recording with a previous winner and multiple nominations player, Paquito de Rivera, the Cuban
I remember
clarinetist and alto player. But he released a recording with the Argentinian trumpet player Diego Urcola called El Duelo. And Urcola has been, he was on that, what was that, a few years ago? Brian Lynch, wasn't it?
Was he on that record?
That, what was it, Maduro Latino?
I should mention the Diego Urcola record came out after September 1st, so it wouldn't it wouldn't have qualified for the Grammys this year. It might be on next year's. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll generate much interest, but I'm happy to see these international players getting some recognition from other countries that probably don't get a lot of recognition in the U.S., so that's one to watch out for. And as we also had talked about, the Christian McBride Big Band album came out a little bit too late for this year's nominations, so we expect to see that probably in the jazz list next year. That's a real fun one, too. So
one more. There's also a record. This one should have qualified for this year's Nubia Garcia's record, Source. She's a saxophone player, and this record made a really big splash this year. It was on everybody's year-end list, except for the Grammys. So check that out, Nubia Garcia, Source. It's got a beautiful album cover too. I like it a lot.
So that wraps up the jazz categories, and we've got one left, which is the contemporary instrumental album. And here we have the previously
like
referred
jazz,
to,
but it isn't.
Axiom, Christian Scott, Atunde Ajuha. The next one is Chronology of a Dream, live at the Village Vanguard by John Baptiste. Take the Stairs by Black Violin. Americana, I'm not sure how to pronounce this name.
Gregoire Marais,
Romain
Collin, and Bill Frisell. And finally, live at the Royal Albert Hall, Snarky Puppy. Okay.
Take it away, Mike. We've already discussed the Axiom a bit, so.
All right, let's go back to this. Okay, this is a live performance of Christian Scott Atunde Ajua's works from previous albums. I rather like him. He claims at the very beginning, he makes an announcement to the audience that he's trying something new and that he's trying to find the power of jazz, right? He wants to like split the atom of jazz or whatever. And I'm not really sure he's doing that, but it's nice to have a statement of purpose, I guess, and you just kind of go from there. I have kind of issues with this. I liked it. I liked the compositions. I liked a lot of his soloing. He is not a subtle player. I mean, he's very loud and brash, okay? And the thing I liked most about this album is, as on every Christian Scott Atunde Ajua album, is the soloing of the flute player, Elena Pinderhughes. I really like her playing a lot, but especially more on older albums that Atunde Ajua did. My big issue with this album is the sound quality. It sounds really distorted, and it's a live performance, and I can't help but wonder if that's actually what the ensemble sounded like live. I can't really make out what his sound is. It's got a lot of effects on it, a lot of filters, it sounds like, and it's very distorted. I guess he wants that sound because that's what his albums tend to sound like, but I don't know.
It's too much electronics for me, and as I mentioned before, the percussion started to knock on my head a bit. I like some parts. I like the flute. I like some of the grooves, but overall, it's just a bit too much there. And as you said, the distortion in the recording is also apparent too. So it's just not something that I really can appreciate very much on this album. So
yeah, he's very much rooted too in his playing and in all the percussion in his New Orleans kind of origins. The whole Mardi Gras sort of tribe thing. Okay, and you hear a lot of that on his albums in general and on this one too. So I like what he does. This, I don't know. This was kind of, I like the music. I liked hearing Elena Pinderhughes solo. I like him when he really wails. He's got some power when he plays. But the overall sound of the album, I kind of got used to it after a while, but you shouldn't have to do that. All right. Anyway, next one. Chronology of a Dream, live at the Village Vanguard by John Baptiste, who many listeners will probably know as the band leader on Late Night with Stephen Colbert.
It's interesting that this doesn't make it in a jazz category.
It's a jazz record.
It seems more jazz than some of the other ones, but yet, strictly speaking, maybe not. This is a fun and funky recording.
I thought so, yeah.
It has like an extremely enthusiastic crowd in it. I would, on the good side, he does a lot of interesting things on piano, including a lot of different styles of playing. He even actually does a little bit of stride piano on one of these cuts. And so the piano playing is fun and funky. It's a good time, a great live date. I didn't find the ensemble arrangements to be anything inspiring. There's sort of basic backups to his show. But as an instrumental recording that's probably accessible to a lot of people and has some really good playing and good energy, it's a fun recording.
Good playing, good energy. He's a really riveting pianist.
Yeah.
But in the rhythms and the figurations he plays, this ensemble doesn't really go into any sort of uncharted territory as far as improvisation goes. They stick
all
to
piano
kind of
supporting what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Another issue I had with this album, one issue I had with the album, is it's 32 minutes long. This is a live set at the Village Vanguard. It was only half an hour. They had to play longer than that.
Yeah.
Why not put the whole set on the record? Okay, give us at least an hour. I don't know. Next, Take the Stairs by Black Violin. I would say this was not a jazz album at all.
I wrote violins meet hip hop. Lots of
exactly.
vocals,
That's what I have too.
Heavy production.
It was like hip hop beats with kind of violins with a lot of effects on them.
Yeah, I really couldn't find anything that I wanted to listen to on this one.
Not my thing at all.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Americana. Here's Gregoire Marais again. He figured on one of the earlier albums we talked about too.
Yeah.
Romain Collin and Bill Frisell, who I really love, guitarist from Baltimore.
This is a very subtle and laid back recording. It's very beautiful.
Spacious. A lot of space between the players.
As a lot of Frisell recordings are, there's a lot to hear here if you're in the mood for something that's very, very open and laid back. I really liked it, and the recording quality is excellent too. The sound quality of this recording is good.
That jumped out at me too. We should mention that Marais is a harmonica player, so the lead instrument here is a harmonica, which is also kind of intriguing. This is the antithesis of the Batiste recording. I mean, that one will get you upping, bouncing, and this one will have you, really relaxed and laid out. I don't know if a lot of people will be able to relax enough and open their mind to hear the subtlety in here, which is really, it plays to all of Bill Frisell's strong points of what he can do with space and tones and things. But it's very beautiful recording and some nice songs here. So, I really enjoyed this one. All right. Last, Snarky Puppy, live at the Royal Albert Hall. Okay, Snarky Puppy are an instrumental ensemble, and they specialize in funk grooves, although they're kind of laid back here. These intricate funk grooves. This album doesn't... It's very good. They groove a lot, but they're playing in a big hall here. You can hear the enormous crowd cheering for them. I don't feel like the acoustic does them any favors. They're very much a live band, so they don't really come across on studio recordings very well. And yet, I feel like this hall was like too big for them somehow. I thought this album was it was okay. I liked it. I like them a lot generally, but this didn't really excite me much. I just found it enjoyable. It didn't really stand out.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this kind of music, this sort of funky fusion jazz. As I said, when I was younger, I liked it a lot. The musicianship is absolutely great, I have to say that. And there's some really, really nice solos on this recording. So, yeah, it's just not my thing, but the craftsmanship and the musicianship, the players show here is really good. I think, a hall is not really the best setting for them, like you say.
There's a big, there's a big spacious acoustic, and I think a lot of the intricate detail in their playing gets lost in that kind of resonance of the space.
Right.
I want to mention before we make our pick, one album that I think is missing from this group is an album by a group from Boston called Lettuce, Lettuce. You know, the stuff you put on your salad, an album called Resonate. Okay, and it's just these slamming funky grooves. It's really fantastic, really energizing. I recommend everybody listening to that. All these just instrumental funk jams.
I think you recommended that to me after we ate those big steaks and we listened to it a bit, and it was quite funky.
Yeah, I feel like that belongs on this list rather than the Snarky Puppy.
There's a lot that could fit into this category, right? Unfortunately, we've got, this is including a lot of jazz where it wouldn't have to. I think there's a lot of things that could be in this category. This Grammy categorization is a bit perplexing to me.
Well, it would be that's always the case.
Nice to see some different types of things in here. But such is what we have. I don't know. Personally, for me, I guess I enjoyed the Americana one the most. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Batiste win because it's the most fun. I guess if they're being artsy, they might say, oh, the Christian Scott is some sort of statement, or I don't know what they'll go with. Yeah.
Okay, I would pick Americana in this group. I thought that was it just sounded so good. There was a lot of space. I would pick Christian Scott too because I liked that record, but the sound quality of it put me off a bit. So I'm gonna go for Americana. My pick to win, who I think they're gonna give it to, is Snarky Puppy because I'm cynical and they always give it to Snarky Puppy. They really like this group a lot. Anyway.
Yeah. It's neither here nor there for me, that group. Whatever.
Anyway, there it is. That's our Jazz Grammy discussion. We'll be back eventually to go over the winners and see who, whether we were right or not.
I can't wait till we get back to just focusing on music that we already picked.
I know. We thought this would be kind of fun, and it turned out to be kind of a lot.
This is a chore. I needed multiple adult beverages to get through this, and maybe our listeners will have needed them too to get through to the end. But
yeah. By the way, if anybody really enjoyed this and you want us to do this, more often, make a donation. Okay, so that we can make a living listening to music and talking about this.
That's right.
Otherwise, we're just going to go back to what we like.
What you liked, what you're interested in.
Yeah, if anybody wants us to talk about an album you like, you want us to talk about it, please write in the comments, and we'll be glad to take a listen.
We've had a reasonable amount of listener numbers for what we've done so far, but we've yet to get any comments or feedback. So I think that if you have anything you'd like to add to the discussion, I've already decided what we'll do if we get any negative comments. Since this is adult music, I will just tell you to grow up.
Yes, grow up. Be an adult.
Grow up. No, but seriously. Seriously.
I don't think any immature minds are going to be listening to this anyway.
No, I don't think so. No one will have lasted this long. But that'll wrap things up for episode 3, the Adult Grammys Jazz.
We're going to do the Adult Classical Grammys next, I think.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to. More of a chore.
I don't know if I'm going to make it through all of those vocal recordings. That's not really my thing.
Okay, I can take up some of this. We might have to split this load because there are a lot of there are 8 categories in the classical.
We'll work out a strategy, Grammys. A battle plan for dealing with these. Okay, and then meanwhile, the new releases will pile up that pique our interest to review.
I've already got a few.
Regardless of other people's estimations. So
I've already got about 3 shows worth. So we're gonna be busy. I think
we'll be busy. Anyway, thank you for
this was fun
in.
Now that it's over. I hope you enjoyed it.
It was fun now that it's over, and we look forward to more reviews, listening, and comments on a variety of music forms that fit the mature mind for adult music. So, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again for episode 4 coming soon.